Welcome to the Joy in the Dark podcast. My name is Joy Felicity, and this is my co-host, Sophie Isadora. And we are the producers for the Joy in the Dark events. We've done a few already, and we have a few coming up, and we're going to share and talk to you a little bit about those. What you can expect on future episodes is dark fantasy, the events that go around that, planning, the execution of the events. We'll talk about costuming and cosplay. We'll bring in some Gothic folklore, behind the scenes stories, prep, and a lot of fun stories that go with that. We hope that you enjoy our show, and we're excited to be sharing our stories with you. Sophie, would you tell us a little bit about how you got into the darker sides of fantasy?
Mine probably started very organically as I was a young child. First off, going from Tim Burton movies as a very young child, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, definitely drawn to those elements. Then as I got older and had a little more bravery, moving into horror movies, and it's just my preferred genre. I love the creepy, I love the spooky.
What was your first horror movie that you ever saw?
Okay, so it's not really a horror movie, but it was the first movie that scared me enough that I had to have my dad come pick me up from a slumber party.
Oh,
So first slumber party ever. I went to a friend's house. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and they were watching Ghostbusters. Not a scary movie, I know. And for some reason, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man frightened me, was scared. My friend's mom had to call my dad, which is fortunately just around the corner, had to come pick me up. And that was my first slumber party experience. So that technically isn't a horror film, but it was the first movie that scared me. So
how did you overcome that fear?
just with age.
Okay.
Just
You're still not like
no.
afraid
I watch
of...
much more scary things now. It's like I said, it's my preferred genre. Any scary movie that comes out, I'm happy to go see it.
Now, do you like to do any of the dark fantasy reading or horror reading? I know you're a reader.
Oh yeah. Definitely same genre, horror, Victorian Gothic, suspense, thrillers. Those are always my go-to picks, so to speak. So
Do you remember what your first scary book was that you read?
first scary book. No, but I can tell you the one I'm reading right now is a book that I actually got when we were on our trip to Denver. We stopped by a lovely little bookstore, and it is called Summer Sense, and it's a Victorian Gothic. I'm about halfway through it right now. So far, it's very, very good.
Nice.
Yeah. I can't remember my first one, though.
We will make sure to drop the name of that book in the comments so that you can check it out. Sophie will be our designated reader for us during this journey, as I have a lot of things going on and don't have a ton of time to read. So I'm going to count thoroughly on her reading expertise to give us the dirt on her Gothic experiences. What got you into the scene, into the goth scene, into the dark, more darker alternative aesthetics? So what crossed you over?
Always been a fan of black.
Okay.
It goes with everything. It's a color I feel comfortable in. So as far as the Gothic aesthetic, I've been just always drawn to that. I'm not a colorful attire wearing person. So yeah, just it's my preferred color. I like the dramatic look. I like dark eyeliner. I like, heavy dark lashes. In high school, I had dark black hair.
Nice.
I actually, in high school, this was long before you could get any color lipstick or any color makeup, in the darker colors, the more fantasy colors. I remember stocking up at Halloween time with black lipstick because that was really the only time of year you could get it.
Right. Right.
So that might put an age on us a little bit, but that's the only place I could get it. So I had a stockpile. But yeah.
What about music? What kind of music started you off into that realm?
Probably 80s, like dark wave. Bands like Susie and the Banshees, definitely one of my favorites still. That would have probably been the gateway for sure. What about you? What were you?
Whew. Um, I was only allowed to listen to Disney music and Christian music. We were a very religious home. So my brother, who is 6 years older than me, started to kind of rebel and was listening to some more rock music and started to play the Smashing Pumpkins. And at that time, um, the Siamese Dream had just come out. And so I was just really, really loving Disarm and Bullet with Butterfly Wings. And I fell in love and I was saving all my money and going to warehouse music store and buying cassette tapes because I didn't know how to use the CD player. We had one, but I didn't know how to use it.
I love that.
So I was like sneaking around because we were still only allowed to listen to Disney and Christian. And I was like really thrilled also that I was like hiding out in my room with my Walkman, listening to music at night in the dark.
That
And
was your hidden pleasure.
yeah.
So fun.
And that was like the gateway for me. In high school, I started going to lots of concerts. Um, Truth be told, I had a fake ID. So like I was able to get into the Sunset Strip and go to the Roxy and the Whiskey and the Viper Room and the Rainbow. And I was, doing a lot of things that adults
Sure.
were doing at like 15, 16, and 17. And that was the community that I fell into. So like the rock aesthetic kind of came with that. In high school, I went to private schools and I stood out big time. Black eyeliner. We had the khakis and the white shirts, but like I wore pins and I had my hair all wild. And I always wore little stars by my eyes, those earrings that you used to get, the little stick on
Yeah.
earrings. Yeah, I would put them like little moons and stars right
So
here
cute.
every single day. And eventually I started to look at some of the other like London punk scene and I kind of crossed over into that and I really, really enjoyed that. And I like Depeche Mode had a huge impact on me. And I just thought, my gosh, those people are so elegant.
Yeah.
And they're so cool. And I just thought like, these are my people. This is where I need to be.
Right.
Um, I will say growing up, I didn't have a lot of persecution for being different, to being a goth kid. I was pretty open and like happy to interact with any type of person.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I got the cold shoulder or people kind of like giving me a bad first interaction, I would just win them over with smiles and happiness. And usually they would like say, I was so intimidated to talk to you at first, but
Yeah.
you're really nice.
Yeah.
I am a nice. And that's kind of like actually what brought me into my identity. Joy in the dark is just bringing light and happiness to a really dark community that's often like forsaken by others and judged and mistreated
And misunderstood.
and misunderstood
Yeah.
by far. I can tell you that some of the people that I have met throughout my time in this community, I mean, they would take a bullet for you
Sure.
and they would help you move a mattress in the middle of the night. Like no questions asked.
Mhm.
Some of the people that I have met in this community have been lifelong friendships and people that I call family. And it's just been such a wonderful journey to really get underneath the layers
Right.
that are happening in Gothic and alternative people, is
Yeah,
because it's just really, people are so surprising when you get to know them.
truly.
And it's been great being able to be myself and not worry about any judgment or resentment. Um, I've been a professional most of my life. I've always worn black. I've always been, very, very different, alternative looking. And, owning a school, I never had any problems with parents. I never had any issues because I was professional. I carried myself well, and it didn't matter if I, had black on or was wearing, different types of jewelry, is because I cared about the children. I was professional with the families. And it really also gave another glimpse into second chances for other Gothic people.
Yeah.
I had several people throughout my life saying, I was always really nervous to talk to people like you because I thought you would be mean, or, you were a witch and you were going to put a spell on me or things like that, or a vampire going to bite me. And you never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
And when you meet normies or muggles and they say stuff like that to you, it's kind of like, all right, my work here is done.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you talked about kind of the things that got you into it. You just started your own adventure, your own business. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, I made the decision after working for another event company for several years, that it was time for me to kind of branch out and do something a little bit different. I'm still, again, alternative and in the Gothic scene, but I was done with just exclusive vampire. I wanted to go out and do more than that.
Hmm.
And so I decided to start my own company, Join the Dark Productions. I have an amazing group of supportive people in my life that are helping me along with that. My husband, your husband, several of my friends, and it's been really great to have that support.
Hmm.
We launched our first event in April. Uh, Lovecraft and Libations. It was a 4 show series over a weekend, and we did it based off of the short stories of H.P. Lovecraft.
Hmm.
It was a speakeasy style. We had very beautifully crafted cocktails, and everyone sat around in a lounge style, and we had these amazing performers that would be paired with the stories. And you were a huge part of the success for that. You
Thank you.
crafted that script and you created the flow of the production and the drinks. I mean, you had these little flowers that you had stuck in there. I didn't even know you could drink or eat flowers. It was brilliant. It was so great. And it was a lot of fun just being able to work with my best friend on a project like that, and then to see it just succeed. I
Yeah.
mean, we had one rehearsal
Yeah.
and it was flawless. It
It
was
it was great. It exceeded my expectations 100%. The performers were all super professional, super amazing in what they did. It couldn't have gone any better, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
And it was, very much. I had worked in different productions before, but nothing like that. And it was definitely a baptism by fire experience for sure.
Oh yeah.
But for that, you know, everything went off amazing. It was beautiful, beautiful weekend, and
Mhm.
I was so happy to be part of it. So
It was. And we're getting very, very excited. We are starting to work on the second chapter or
Mm.
second installment of that. And a little bit of a spoiler, we might be introducing some Cthulhu
Yes,
and the
yes,
call into this next part,
yes.
as most people only really identify H.P. Lovecraft with Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Um, we thought it might be nice to show some other sides of his short stories in our first installment. And we're getting ready to bring you Cthulhu, and that will be coming in the fall this year. So stay tuned for more information on that. We'll be posting some flyers, promotional videos.
Yeah.
Super excited to have that coming back, and thrilled to have that as our debut of the production company. Our big focus for Joy in the Dark Productions is we want to bring fantasy events with a dark theme to communities all over the United States. So ideally what we're going for is we want to have something every other month
Yeah.
in all parts of the country.
Mhm.
Right now we have Las Vegas. We are going to be going to St. Louis in August.
Mhm.
I'm in the
Planning phases.
planning phases, proposals, flirting, have you. They're courting me for Denver
Yes.
and Richmond, Virginia, um, San Jose, California, and we are also looking in Florida as well. So things are looking good for our little dark fantasy family and expanding out. And we really just are trying to create these events to build around pre existing communities that already have some of the fantasy elements,
Mhm.
but don't necessarily have an event that will bring it all together.
Mhm.
So we're excited to start with our themes and finding performers for those themes. For Midsummer Night's Dream, which is going to be in August, it is a Shakespearean theme. So we have Shakespearean performers that will be putting on excerpts and synopsis of Midsummer Night's Dream. We'll have fire performers and opera singers and all kinds of just really special things. We will talk about the Midsummer Night's Dream Ball in more depth at a later time, but that's just something fun to look forward to, and where a lot of our energy is going right now.
Yeah. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. Joy in the Dark Productions is a women run business. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and why that's such an important aspect of it to you?
One of the things that I really came across as event coordinator for the past 15 years is a lot of these events are run by men, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times, women are the ones that can bring the softer side and the more thematic side and elements of grace and elegance to events. And it was something that was much needed in the event community to have women run things, to have women be a part of the planning and the performing and the decor and the setup. Not that men cannot do those things, because they
Right.
certainly can, but it's just something to say about women coming together and lifting each other up
Mhm.
and creating a beautiful event in harmony
Yeah.
and in tandem with the community. And I think that that is something that I am really proud of, that I have a group of women that are just professional and creative and work really well together. And the thing I like about our team is there isn't just one person in charge. Okay. I've founded it and I'm funding it, but my team is just as much as involved in the planning of this process, right down to the table scatter.
Yeah.
you and another girl on our team, Iris, have really come forward and put a lot of your ideas into this. Iris lives in St. Louis, and she is contributing performers and seeking vendors.
Mhm.
And, we did our walkthrough, and you had visions of tulle and flowers and petals. And, it's just really, really lovely that we can come together as women and create something beautiful and magic to share with everyone.
Yeah.
And this event isn't just for women.
Oh,
Oh my goodness, this is for men too. You're going to love dressing up and feeling, sexy in your outfits and watching all the pretty girls twirl and dance and be wowed. You don't even have to dance. There's so many things that happen in our events that are beyond the scope. You can sit there
absolutely.
and just enjoy the show all night long. And instead of a traditional format where we just have our circ at one time, we break it up throughout the night.
Right.
So we'll have a show, a little dancing, some performances, immersive actors going through the audience.
Mhm.
We'll have interactive experiences like magicians and snake charmers, aerialists and stilt walkers. And you don't ever have to dance at all if you don't want to.
No, the people watching aspect is huge.
Oh, yes.
You can admire from afar, you can admire up close, you can be as involved or as immersed as you want to be.
That's
Truly.
right. That's right. And
Yeah.
aesthetically, it's just, everywhere you look, there's going to be something
Right.
beautiful and experiential that you will be able to remember.
Mhm.
And make sure you take lots of pictures, take lots of videos, because it's going to be something that you've never experienced
Yeah,
before.
I agree. I agree. So, this idea of immersive events, with that, what do you think the the concept of escapism versus reality? 'Cause very much so, going to an immersive event, you are kind of immersing yourself in this escapist kind of environment. And why do you think that that's so appealing to people?
People get to come to a place where they can literally dress up like anything they want. And that is a form of armor. That is a form of, courage. They
Mhm.
can dress up as these characters and come and interact with people and have new identities that they only think about through books or movies. And now
Absolutely.
they get to act it out and be part of
Right.
something.
Right.
And, I started off in live action role playing. That's where
Okay.
my roots come from. And I want that community to come to my events so that they can experience the rush that they get when they play a character
Mhm.
now for a night of enjoyment.
Right.
And they can choose this character that they want to portray for the night and meet other people that are similar and like-minded and can kind of come together in this beautiful night of enchantment.
Right. Minus
And
the mechanics.
yeah,
Yeah.
no storytellers are going to be checking your character sheets.
Right. Right.
We'll have lots of storytellers, but you will be a storyteller too.
Right. In a much
Everyone
different
there,
way.
that's right. You are creating your own story and your own environment, and you're using the tools that we give you to
Mhm.
create this experience for yourself.
I love.
And it is a bit of an escape.
Mhm.
You're going to this event for 6 hours and you are stepping into another realm. It's a
Absolutely.
new world and new experiences, and it's full of lots of opportunities, an option and an opportunity to meet new people
Mhm.
and people that are there in the community, but also all over the United States and
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
And I think that that is what makes it the escape. But the reality of it is these people that you've met are real people
Mhm.
that you can connect with outside of
Right.
these events.
Right. And
Or
plan rendezvous later
right.
at different events.
And every weekend that we have these events, we are going to have lots of community outreach, community building experiences. We have our high tea. St. Louis is going to have a paint and sip.
Right.
For some of our VIP members, we have a haunted mansion tour. We always choose a host hotel so that people can swim in the pool and get dinner together
Mm-hmm.
and meet in the lobby and kind of have that companionship and that camaraderie that they can have only from meeting these people at this
Right.
event.
Right.
So the escape is going to the event, but the reality is that you're meeting people that you can connect with maybe for years to come.
Right.
I still talk to people that I met at some of my first events that I ever did.
Yeah.
I met a wonderful friend from Scotland, Glasgow, Scotland, at the Labyrinth Ball of Jareth, and that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We are still very great friends. I went and visited him in Scotland, and I met him at an event, and we were both dressed up in very different ways, but came together in this one place. And I have so many relationships like that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something to expect and
Mm-hmm.
to feel like you can escape. You can get away from all of the stress of your life.
From work, from kids, from spouses,
Everything,
everything.
everything. And tickets, start at a relatively low price. I
Yeah.
mean, they're $75 to $80 for general admission. And, depending on the type of experience you want, go up from there. But that's affordable.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
truly is.
it's going to the movies a couple of times.
It's cheaper than therapy.
Yeah, cheaper than therapy, cheaper than Disneyland.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it creates this escape from reality that will bring you a magical experience that you can carry over into your dayside life.
Absolutely. So it's not even necessarily escapism versus reality. It's escapism coupled with reality, I
That's
feel like,
right. That's
in
right.
a lot of ways.
That's right.
Love it. So sometimes dark fantasy and horror crossover, right? And sometimes they're completely different from each other. Books, movies, TV shows, all those things. So, what do you think the biggest difference is, in your opinion, between the two, and then maybe speak about the crossover of them?
I think the biggest difference is how they make you feel.
Okay.
Horror is designed to give you chills, to scare you, to thrill you.
Right.
And dark fantasy or fantasy is designed to give you an experience outside of your norm.
Okay.
And I think that fantasy is heavily based on your imagination
Mhm.
and what can you dream? What can you see? What can you experience? And then based off of what other people experience and what other people dream, you get to experience that.
Right.
So I think that fantasy and horror, while there is a lot of crossing over, I think it's really on how it makes you feel
Hmm.
and what you're expecting.
Hmm.
Are you expecting to be scared? Or are you expecting to, be taken to another realm and
Right.
experience the, you know, rush of mythological creatures,
Right. Right.
And I think that there are a lot of crossovers. So we definitely do see in pop culture some, Pan's Labyrinth,
Hmm.
where there's a lot of scary things happening.
That's actually the perfect example, I think, of crossing over. Like, there's definitely horror elements to that, but it's definitely set in a dark fantasy realm
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Even movies like or books like Lord of the Rings,
Hmm.
there's a lot of scary things that happen there
Sure.
too. And yet, you're taken on this quest with these, amazing little creatures, and it's almost like you're there with them,
Right.
and I think that is something that really comes into play. I think that in recent times, horror has become very exciting. A lot of people
Yeah.
really get a rush from it. There's a lot of really fun aspects to it. People are going crazy for horror.
Yeah.
And I love horror too. I
Yeah.
think it's
Same.
it's beautiful, and it's got a lot of elements that you can't find in anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the people that are involved in horror are just really cool people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
From
this
special effects makeup
yeah.
to everybody involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think some of the crossover now has become a lot of people that are in the dark fantasy communities or in fantasy communities in general.
Mm-hmm.
They also are liking some of the horror aspects too. And I do notice that a lot of people in fantasy, some of the readers, they're drawn towards some of the darker fantasy, darker romance,
Mm-hmm.
and almost like, Beauty and the Beast type
Right.
horror
Forbidden love.
undertones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that that's been something like really important, um, that has caused a good intertwining of the two.
Sure.
What do you think about that?
I agree with you completely. I think there's a lot of gray area where they cross over. I think they complement each other fantastically. But I think each of them obviously stand strongly on their own as well. But I find myself seeing a lot of crossover, especially in movies like you mentioned, like Pan's Labyrinth. Like even Labyrinth when we were
Yeah.
just regular Labyrinth when we were children, as a child, there were very scary elements to that, set again in a fantasy world. So I think while they are different, I think they complement each other so great. So
I could see some really big things that are super different. So, like in horror, you're going to have a lot of blood and gore, right?
yeah, yeah,
There's going to be some psychological thriller and stuff like that, but you're going to see a lot of blood and gore.
right,
In fantasy, it's going to be like glitter
right,
and like, the special effects on their makeup are going to be more on like the ears or like the changing of the
right.
face, and even the costuming. Whereas like in the horror, we still get a lot of special effects. I mean, the monsters in special effects are
Right,
are amazing.
right.
You look at some of uh like V Neil and the things that
Mhm.
she does in like Beetlejuice and
Yeah,
even Lost Boys, like the makeup that she does there,
right,
it's like
right.
amazing.
Rather than the fantastical, it's more like the focus on wounds and cuts and,
Right.
there's a different little bit of difference in the makeup, but, still amazing artwork, amazing things. So you're right, there's definitely a difference there in terms of the horror aspect, the scare, the thrill of like opening that door because you think
The
somebody's behind it.
adrenaline.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
adrenaline. I feel like horror gives you the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And
A more visceral, like realistic response.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas fantasy is like invoking your imagination and
Yeah.
your like hunger for, I want to know more, I want to see more, I want to like experience the same thing that they're experiencing,
Hmm.
and almost takes you to that place.
Yeah.
Whereas horror, you definitely don't want to go to that place.
No.
You do not want to be where the man and the chainsaw are,
Right.
but you want to judge
You want
them
to
and
keep
say,
there. Yeah.
what are you doing hiding there? We can see you, therefore chainsaw is gonna see you.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
we always have our own you know, what we would do in those situations.
Right.
And God forbid we ever are in a situation
Right.
like that, because I'm fairly certain all the things that I tell people to do in horror movies, I will never do.
Right.
I will freeze. I will cry. I will hide.
Get in a quiet position, like,
Peeing of the pants will probably happen. You know? I don't feel any of those things when I watch
no,
fantasy.
no,
None.
no. Agreed.
And I think that that is also something when you're looking into events and immersion is some of the things that you're looking to feel. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of beauty in horror
Sure.
and decay, and we can really see and appreciate some of the hauntingly beautiful effects that we see in
Oh.
some of the, classic horror
Mhm.
movies and Dracula and Frankenstein and,
Mhm.
all of, even recently, there's been a lot of remakes of them and just, the costuming, so beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yes, I know. I know that we are seeing a lot more of the horror and dark fantasy elements in pop
Mhm.
culture, in TV shows, in
Mhm.
movies,
Mhm.
in podcasts,
Mhm.
in lots of that, because that's people are drawn to that. They want
Absolutely.
to escape. They want to get out of their normal. They want to go to a place of make believe,
Absolutely.
and they want to go to a place that takes away the everyday stress into a fantasy world.
Mhm.
And whether that's horror or traditional fantasy, that's entirely different on the person and what they're looking for.
Mhm. You touched on an interesting thing. The idea of beauty in decay. And, and you mentioned stories like Frankenstein. And that's obviously a huge cornerstone of the Goth aesthetic, the Goth
Mhm.
community is finding that beauty in the decay. Um, how, do you have anything to speak of on that? Like, what do you think is beautiful in the decay?
Well, a little bit of a backstory with me. I have been a death doula and have helped a lot of people crossing over and in the final days of their lives. And I feel like oftentimes society is very afraid of death and
Mhm.
very afraid of decay, and they don't want to talk about it. They want to be in denial about it.
It's a
And
taboo subject for a lot
yeah,
of people.
definitely. And I think that from a very early age, my father was a minister. We had to do a lot of funerals, a lot of house calls to, people that were passing in their final days.
Mhm.
And I wanted to go. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see people die. I don't know why. I just wanted to be there. I was
Right.
curious. I was interested in it. But I also experienced just this utter sense of peace
Mhm.
when they let go and they
Mhm.
crossed over.
Mhm.
Like, it was just a surreal experience. And from an early age, I really was drawn to that.
Yeah,
And I think that a lot of people in the alternative and gothic community, they find a lot of beauty in death in that area as well.
absolutely.
Bones and skeletons, and we see people like, typo negative and talking about women smelling like rotting leaves.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like, because we find beauty in the grotesque,
Yeah, yeah.
because there is beauty. From death comes life. And in some of the darkness, beautiful light, beauty from ashes
Mhm.
arise.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that, we will also have a couple elements of that beauty and decay in our events, as there's always an undertone of
Sure.
that gothic aesthetic.
Absolutely.
But we also are trying to bring light to this community as well.
Absolutely.
So some beauty there.
And both can coexist, I think, and I think they can exist in a very beautiful combination. So I think it's a lovely thing. I am here for it, and I am excited for all the events that are coming up soon.
Yeah, me too. And I think that it will be just the beginning. We're going to be really taking this journey with each community and going through different ebbs and flows of events and the styles and the aesthetics, and each event's going to be very different from the other.
Mhm.
Just comparing Lovecraft to Midsummer Night's Dream,
Yeah,
night and day different,
absolutely.
and it was amazing to be witnessing some of the reactions at Lovecraft. We had some people that were like, I don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
I feel real uneasy.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Right, right.
Some people were like, that's a good thing. I'm going to stick it out. Other people like, this has made me feel too uncomfortable. I'm out.
Yeah,
And while that's hard to see, people get up and leave.
sure.
We didn't have a ton of people like that, but I also am excited that this show gave them that feel, that they felt so uncomfortable that they had to leave,
Sure.
because
Sure.
it caused them to feel things that they weren't prepared to feel.
Right. Right.
And the same can be true in our gala balls. We want people not to get up and leave. We
Sure.
definitely don't
No.
want that for that. But we want people to experience things that they weren't prepared to
Yeah, that element of
feel.
surprise.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And that element of, wow, or I can't believe I'm seeing this. And we have some amazing performances that I'm just sure are going to, jaws are going to drop. People are going to be amazed. Lots of photos, lots of videos. And we're really, really excited to share that.
So excited.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that we talked about just a little bit, and I just wanted to kind of circle back to it, the idea of mainstream media and how there's kind of the resurgence of the kind of the supernatural, the darker side of things, and the idea of why do you think us as a culture are so enthralled with monsters and the idea that we kind of root for the monster, I feel like a little bit.
I definitely see that. And I think that it's a very Americanized thing, although other countries in the world definitely, I mean, Japan and Godzilla, like
Sure.
we get it a lot in other countries. But I think it's has to do with the idea that everything isn't cookie cutter.
Hmm.
Everything is not, this utopia airy
Hmm.
society, and that there can be scary things that come out. And I think that as things like technology and social media and all of those things show just how scary the world can be,
Right.
I think having the, you know, lighter heart about experiencing those things through pop culture and movies and
Hmm.
media makes it a little bit easier to cope.
Hmm.
And I think a little bit easier to get through some of the scary things that are really happening in our world
Sure.
right now. I also, I look at things like Anne Rice, and she wrote Interview with a Vampire in 1976.
Hmm.
Okay. And it didn't get any traction for like 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I can only imagine how that must feel when you write a book, it goes nowhere, and then all of a sudden just starts blowing up,
Right.
right? And I think it's because society had to go through these changes and these transitions and
Hmm.
evolutions of, going through the Civil War, going through the civil rights movement,
Hmm.
how different those things were happening, how different they are, but how each thing was important to get us to the next place of our evolution as a
Right.
human race.
Hmm.
And I think that having the idea of scary monsters and make believe, it's more socially acceptable because the sky is the limit with our imagination.
Absolutely.
And we're able to kind of experience things without fear of retaliation.
Mhm.
Nobody can take away a scary movie from us or how it makes us feel.
Mhm.
We can experience it and go through our life um, without ever having to justify why we like scary movies or why we're drawn to fantasy elements.
Mhm.
And I think that the evolution of where we've been and where we're going has made it a lot more possible for things like Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire to become popular.
Right.
Because in the 70s, they weren't ready for it.
No, it is so truly a woman before her time, like,
Yeah,
just so far ahead. So, and luckily, people came around
that's
and
right.
because now,
And laid the groundwork for so many more people to create new things.
Mhm.
And, even now, movies like Backrooms
Mhm.
and Obsession,
Mhm.
those movies would not be possible without pre-existing
Oh, sure.
doors that led us to this point, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely.
And I think that it's important as a community to be accepting to all people
Mhm.
that may like horror movies, but, are wearing blue jeans and t shirts on a normal, but they like the rush, they like the feel,
Sure.
you know? Everything in our world can be appropriate for any type of person.
Mhm.
And I think that that's one of the importance about these events and about this company is that we want every single person, the person wearing the blue jeans to the person wearing the latex,
Right.
to be able to come to our event, coexist, have a great time, and experience things that they never dreamed they would experience.
Right.
And we needed things in pop culture to help us get comfortable with that
Yeah.
because blue jeans and latex can both appreciate the labyrinth.
Yeah.
They both can appreciate Dracula.
Yeah.
They both can appreciate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Mhm.
you know? And I think that that is the big underlying theme in all of this is that these type of things, these fantasy movies, these books, these pop culture references are things that bring people together.
Mhm.
And we're trying to form events that can bridge that gap even
Yeah,
more.
and do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Think that wraps it up for our
Yeah.
first
Well,
podcast.
we hope that you really enjoyed our show today. This was, again, a little bit of an introduction of who we are, what we're trying to do with Joy in the Dark Productions, why we started what we're doing, how we're trying to bridge that gap between the communities. And we're excited to bring some more dark fantasy and horror to our audiences. Thank you again. And thank you so much, Sophie, for being my co host in this. And
Absolutely. Happy to.
I'm excited to be on this journey with you.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.